Campione begins by Godo was an ugly, riskless loser wasting away like a useless family portrait until he went on a journey where he mistakenly slayed a god to become a god slayer, which surprisingly had a hidden perk of clapping the best harem girls. But before that happens, a girl named Erika, who accused him of stealing the grimoire he was returning for his grandpa. But before he could defend himself, a giant boar showed up like it was summoned. She quickly moved towards its location alongside Ariana Driver. Meanwhile, the monster was already destroying the city and some of the bride. Almost isekai'd them, but Ariana swerved on time. Erika immediately leaped to the sky thanks to the shoe of Hermes that boosted her jump. On the roof of the building, she transformed into refighting gear before seeing an incantation that summoned a sword as she prepared for battle. With the sword, she attacked with a weak flame that didn't do much damage to King Kong's cousin, King Tusk. This helped her clarify that it was indeed a divine beast, so she used the full brunt of her powers in an attempt to break its shield. On his way to help her, he tripped and came face to face with a mysterious guy, who called himself the mightiest being that can vanquish any enemy. He claimed he wanted to taste defeat, and that's why he'd been summoning old beasts to battle them. At the same time, Erika was still battling the boar, so he called her a witch and asked if he was simping for her. Godo claimed that he just wanted to return the tablet, but this was surprisingly hilarious to the glowing psycho, who called him an honorable warrior before handing him back the tablet like it was a present, after which he disappeared on a horse, leaving Godo even more confused. Erika, on the other hand, was fighting for her life, but could do a ride just in time to save her from falling to her doom. Together they watched as the boar vanished in a tornado, and she told him it was an incarnation of a god. While they waited for the train, Erika told Godo that the boar had been summoned by a heretic god. She explained that heretic gods were those who brought disaster to the human world, and each disaster matched their abilities. However, only those who possessed magic could see them, while normal humans saw them as natural disasters. She then asked about the grimoire in his possession, and he told her he was to return it to Lucretia Zola. Erika recognized the name and said she was the Great Witch of Sardinia. After a few arguments about how to wit it in slow, Godo was since he couldn't recognize the power he was holding, Erika offered to take him to Lucretia. By the time they arrived at Lucretia's home, Godo was sure he'd die from how badly Erika's maid, Ariana, had been driving. At the gate they met Talking Tom, who asked why they had come, so Erika explained it to him. When they went inside, they found Lucretia lying in her lingerie doing a seductive pose, which surprised Godo, since he thought she'd be an old, ugly, wart-nosed woman about to meet the Grim Reaper. After they handed her the grimoire, she asked if he'd run into anyone on his way there, so he told her about the mysterious guy. Lucretia then branded it back to him and said the gods wished for him to keep it. Later that night, Erika drank so much because she was mad Lucretia had given the groom to Godo. After she passed out, Godo helped her to her room, and after she made him take off her dress, she lay on the bed and drifted off to sleep. Godo then tried to leave, but it turned out Lucretia had locked the door since she hoped he and Erika. We get the freak out. The next morning, Erika brought out her inner punch Godo, but he explained that he hadn't touched her the night before. While he was still trying to convince her, they heard a loud noise, so Erika quickly dressed and ran outside with Godo. When they got outside, they saw a stone giant walking past the building. Erika called out to him and begged him to stop, which he did even though he told her it was a rude thing to stop a god. She apologized to him and asked if he was Melkart, so he told her he was, but the conversation was interrupted when lightning struck him. Melkart then continued on his way, but Erika told Godo that she was going ahead to stop him from fighting another god. However, Godo insisted on going, so she had Ariana drive them to where Melkart had gone. On the way there, Godo recalled what Lucretia had told him about how the grimoire held the power to steal another god's authority. She also said it had an incarceration from the god Verithragna, which was very powerful. Melkart had already come face to face with Verithragna, and Erika was surprised to find out that Godo knew who he was. She then got between the two gods, who were about to fight, and tried convincing them to call off the fight, but they told her not to interfere with their business. Verithragna even tried to strike her with lightning, but Godo pushed her out of the way before it hit her. He then made up his mind to team up with Melkart and promised to help him defeat Verithragna. When Verithragna noticed what was happening, he said he was glad he'd made the right choice. However, he tried to strike them with thunder again, but Melkart had cast a protective shield around them. Still not wanting to give up, Verithragna summoned his golden sword, which he used to cut through the shield as it had the power to cut away a god's power. Erika tried to convince Godo to run, but he told her he wasn't a spineless coward who ran from problems, so she gave him a good luck kiss on the cheek. Once the shield broke, Godu released the stallion and the grimoire so it could attack Verithragna. He was unharmed and called Godu a fool for risking his life in a meaningless way. Godu then revealed he had used the stallion as a distraction so he could steal the golden sword. Before Verithragna could come to terms with the loss of his sword, Erika could kiss Godu, and the entire area was enveloped in a golden light. Sometime later, Godu, who was in a dreamlike state, met Pandora, and she informed him that he had met all the conditions of being the God Slayer, so he would be reborn as the championing since he had given his life to slay Verithragna. When he woke up, he began preparing for school, but nearly jumped out of his body when he noticed Erika sleeping naked on his bed. After he managed to convince her to get dressed, they both went downstairs. Godu's sister, Shizuka, then asked if he was now letting his booty calls spend the night, but Godu had no way of explaining the real truth to her. He kept trying to explain that nothing was going on between them. It so happened that Erika had followed him to Japan to be with him, because she had realized she was in love with him. At school, Godu was shocked when Erika introduced herself as a transfer student. When she announced that Godu was her future husband, he dragged her out of the classroom. But on reaching outside the classroom, he noticed that he had grabbed the wrong person who turned out to be Yuri. After school, while Godu and Yuri walked home together, a man named Amaterasu approached them and introduced himself to Godu. After this, the three of them went to a temple, and Amaterasu explained that he was from a government organization which took care of the incidents concerning gods or magic. He also talked about Erika, and according to their intel, Erika had the power to attract men using her sexy figure and pretty face. He said her reason for approaching Godu was suspicious, but there was one possibility, and that was Erika wanting to invite Godu to join her organization in Italy. Later that evening, when Godu came home, he was lost in his thoughts about Erika's true motive when suddenly he turned and saw Erika on his bed. She planned on asking Godu out on a date, but Godu confronted her and asked her what her true motives for coming to Japan were. Erika then offered to spend time with him for a day, and then after that she would reveal to him her main objective. However, he didn't expect her to bring him back to Italy and a Colosseum nonetheless. Inside the Colosseum, as Godu was waiting for Erika, he got a visit from a mysterious girl who said that if he wanted to challenge her to a duel, she would gladly engage him. Godu told her that he didn't intend to fight her in a duel, which annoyed her, so she told him that he was unworthy of being a campione and then disappeared. Erika soon arrived with 3 gentlemen from her organization because they wanted to meet the 7th campione and assess his abilities. Erika then told Godu that he would have to prove his skills to the 3 gentlemen to show how strong he was before she summoned her sword, and charged at him without a second's notice. Godu, who was unprepared and not told about this duel, managed to dodge Erika's attacks until she summoned a huge steel lion and went to stand by the 3 gentlemen so they could all watch Godu's actions from the sidelines. As the huge lion charged at Godu, he activated the power he got from Verithragna, and with its strength he could withstand the attacks. After he was able to hold it, he immediately threw the lion, slamming it to the ground, but it was still able to fight and lunge at Godu once more. Godu then used the power of the raptor and was able to move fast, dodging all of the lion's attacks. Erika then returned to the fight after turning the lion back into her sword. She then created a huge magical tornado, but Godu didn't seem afraid because it was all part of his plan to lure Erika back so he could attack her. Godu then told her that he wouldn't be able to hold back his strength and asked her to figure out a way to dodge his incoming attack. He then released a gigantic boar which charged towards her, forcing Erika to use her hermit sandals to jump into the air to dodge the giant boar's bulldozing attack. The boar then ran into the Colosseum, leveling it to the ground, after which Erika came back down. She then said that Godu could only use each incarnation once a day, but before Erika could finish speaking, Godu lunged at her and knocked her down. The members of Erika's organization were impressed by Godu's abilities, and Erika decided to give him a mysterious stone. Erika also revealed to Godu that she wanted to be with him, not because she was given a mission, but because she loved him. The next day, Amaterasu went to Yuri and informed her that something was going to be done by a god, and that Godu would be involved. The mysterious girl who had met Godu had also arrived in Japan. She stood atop a building gazing out at the city. It was then revealed that she was one of the heretic gods and her goal was to find the Gorgonian. At school, Yuri met Godu and asked him if they could talk privately. During their afternoon break, Godu went to the roof to meet up with Yuri, and she asked if Godo had seen a sacred treasure called the Gorgonian, and Godo said no. However, Godo became curious and asked Yuri what the Gorgonian looked like. Yuri explained that it resembled a small medallion, which was made of stone, and while she was describing, Godo took out the stone medallion Erika had given him and showed it to Yuri. When Yuri saw the medallion, she was shocked because it was the Gorgonian. She then told him that a goddess was looking for the Gorgonian, and that the world would be destroyed if the goddess found it. Later on, they went to the temple where Yuri told Godo about the disaster that would befall the world. She said that according to a prophecy, a catastrophe would come and the sky would be starless. She claimed that the prophecy was predicted by Princess Alice, a shrine maiden who had reached the highest level in heaven, and that her predictions were never wrong. Yuri also said that if a god were to obtain the Gorgonian, the god would become terrifying and corrupted. Godo then suggested that it be destroyed, but Yuri said they could only seal it. Erika then arrived and confirmed Yuri's words, after which Yuri used her powers to locate the goddess, who turned out to be Athena. Godo and Erika headed out immediately. And when they encountered her, Godo realized that she was the mysterious girl he met back in Italy. Athena, who sensed that they didn't have the Gorgonian, launched an attack, but Erika blocked the attack with her sword. Athena then used magic to trap Erika and went after Godo. She kissed him to administer a lethal poison so that Godo would die helplessly. Erika then freed herself before transforming her sword into a spear, which she lunged at Athena. She fought Athena with all her might, but Athena seemed completely unfazed and relaxed. Since Erika wasn't the campione, Erika on the other hand didn't care and kept launching her futile attacks. She then threw her spirit at Athena, but it got shattered, so she used the shattered pieces to cage Athena. Meanwhile, Yuri, who was on her way to seal the Gorgonian, ran into Liliana and was surprised to see that she was in Japan. Liliana asked Yuri to hand over the Gorgonian, but Yuri refused, so she tried to attack Yuri. Before they could fight, Amaterasu showed up in a car, giving Yuri the chance to create a cage-like barrier around Liliana. Yuri then got into the car and they immediately left the place. Later that evening, Godo woke up and found that he was lying on Erika's lap. He then asked where Athena was. Erika told him that she was probably wandering around looking for the Gorgonian. She then explained the legend of the Gorgonian by kissing Godo, and said that in the past the Gorgonian monster named Medusa was defeated by Perseus and her head was handed to the goddess Athena. After that, the goddess put Medusa's head into one of her magic shields. As they were talking, the sky suddenly became pitch black, but they knew that it was the work of Athena. Later that night, Athena sent her owls to search for the Gorgonian. Meanwhile, as Godo and Erika rushed to meet up with Yuri as she prepared to seal the Gorgonian, she called Godo. He told her that Athena was coming, and that she was in danger. He also told her that she must say his name wholeheartedly, and that he would come to her aid if she was in danger. After the call ended, Godo and Erika abandoned their car and continued their journey by running. Erika knew that Godo would use the ability of the wind when he said he would come to Yuri's aid when summoned. Godo confirms what she said, but also said that he wasn't sure if he could pull it off. Athena then arrived at Yuri's location and defeated her with ease. Liliana also arrived and tried to help Yuri, but Athena proved to be too powerful and also defeated Liliana. She then acquires and uses the Gorgonian to revert to her godly form, although she wasn't at full power yet. Yuri then called out for Godo and he arrived just in time to stop her from falling. As they prepared to face Athena, Yuri began to cough, which caused her pain, and Athena admitted that she had spread her poison death fog before they had arrived and that Yuri had inhaled it. Godo then summoned the golden sword that could neutralize the poison from Yuri. As Godo was ready to face Athena with the golden sword, then transported them into the dimension of 1,000 golden swords and charged at Athena. Yuri and Erika, on the other hand, were outside the dimension. Erika explained to Yuri that the space Godo had created contained thousands of golden swords, which was a dimension he could freely fight as hard as he could. Even though Athena was still alive, Erika passes her magic spear to Godo, who throws the spear to Athena, causing a huge explosion that seriously injures her, turning her back into her younger form. Instead of finishing her off, Godo told her to leave, ending the battle between them. Amaterasu then reported on the battle to his superiors and explained that it was Godo who had defeated Athena. But he was sure that this night was not the disaster Princess Alice had foreseen, because the disaster was easily dealt with. A few days later, Godo went to Erika's house because she demanded he wake up so they could go to school together. However, Erika was sleeping so soundingly you'd think she was a baby, so Godo had to shake her until she opened her eyes. He then told her to get her lazy ass out of bed and get dressed so they could head to school. Erika complained that he was being rough, but sat up nonetheless and left Godo speechless for a few seconds. But the sneaky vixen stretched out her hands, asking him to dress her up. Godo didn't even think twice as he ran to pick up the plot armor and try to figure out how to put it on her. The moment Erika complained that he was too slow, he realized what he was doing and threw the bra away in shock. Meanwhile, Yuri was having a vision of Liliana bowing before a mysterious man and asking if it was time to finally begin their plans. The man told Liliana to begin as she had everything she needed. But he suddenly felt Yuri's presence, and the vision shifted from the room to a void where the Alucard ripoff tried to intimidate Yuri. She opened up her eyes and tried to understand what the vision had been about. Later on, while she was packing up her lunch, she was so lost in thoughts about her dream vision that she didn't realize her sister had walked into the room until the girl got in front of her and stole an egg roll. Her sister, whose name was Hikari, told Yuri that the egg roll was delicious and said that Godo was surely going to love them. Yuri, who was in the middle of scolding her, paused for a bit and asked how she knew about him. So Yuri explained to her that Amakasu had told her everything. She said that Yuri was doing a wonderful job trying to get Godo to like her by using her feminine skills. Yuri was a bit slow on the uptake, so Hikari dumbed things down a bit for her, causing the never-been-kissed maiden to become as red as a fire truck. Yuri scolded her, saying a child wasn't supposed to have a mouth as dirty as a sailor's. But Carrie wasn't paying attention as she was busy looking for a bigger bento box. When she found it, she offered to help Yuri pack the food, saying guys ate a lot of food. Yuri tried to explain that she hadn't made the lunch with Godo in mind, but the little matchmaker told her that if she managed to make Godo fall for her, they would get married. Yuri couldn't help but imagine her wedding to Godo, even though knew she was being delusional. When she arrived at school and opened the classroom door, she found the ever-daring Erika sitting on Godo's lap. She and the other half of the class watched as Godo tried to get Erika off of him, but she refused. She told him to stop acting like a prude and even implied that they had spent the night bumping uglies. That was when he realized that she'd planned everything and was up to no good, however, before he could question her. Yuri suddenly appeared beside him. She immediately began scolding the both of them for acting like a pair of horny teenagers, and told Erika that it was unbecoming of a proper lady to act like she was from the red light district. Erika told her there wasn't anything wrong with it as her body and sword belonged to Godo, but Yuri reminded her that there was a time and place for everything, causing both girls to get into an intense staring competition. Later that day during PE class, Yuri, Godo, and the rest of the class watched as Erika pitched perfectly during a baseball game. Yuri then asked Godo if Erika was using magic to boost her throws, but he assured her that Erika wouldn't do such a thing. This made her point out that he had so much trust in Erika, and said it was because he knew that underneath all her sunder act, she was a big old teddy bear. Just then, Erika called out to Godo and asked him to be the catcher for her next game, but he refused. She then tried to bait him into agreeing by mocking him, but he still refused, saying he wasn't in the mood to play her petty games. Yuri, who had no idea he'd been a catcher before, asked why he'd stopped. So he explained that he'd hurt his shoulders. However, since he became a campione, it had healed up nicely, but he still didn't feel comfortable using his powers to play. Erika then challenged her to a match, but Godo got up immediately and asked what she was planning. Erika ignored his question and turned to face Yuri as she teased her. Yuri told Erika not to underestimate her and then agreed to play, so in the end, Godo acted as the catcher. Before the game started, Yuri had a vision of how Erika would pitch after she told Godo about it. He came up with a plan to help them win. However, when the game started, Yuri's swings were weak as hell and the ball just sailed past her into Godo's hand. After the second strike, Godo advised her to only take a swing when he gave the signal. But when Erika eventually pitched her ball and he gave the signal, Yuri was so excited that she hit the ball, only to discover that the ball had hit Godo's family jewels and the bat had stuck in his helmet. Meanwhile, at the crater created by Godo and Athena's fight, Amakasu came across Lillian. He then asked what business a Bronze Knight of the Bronze Black Cross has in Japan, but she only told him she'd stop by on a whim before she left. Back at the school, Godo and the girls went to the roof to have lunch, and when they noticed her huge bento box, Godo said he had no idea she had a large appetite. But she told him she had made too much and wanted to share with them. Erika wasted no time and took a piece of egg roll which she ate, but complained that it wasn't fluffy enough. Godo told her to keep quiet as she couldn't even boil an egg before he praised Yuri's cooking skills. Erika then said Yuri was trying to seduce Godo with food, but she denied it, saying the only thing she wanted was to guide him. Erika asked Yuri if she had a cell phone, so she admitted she didn't own one. Erika suggested she get one, so she would be able to speak with Godo whenever she wanted, and even asked Godo to go with her. Yuri suddenly felt overwhelmed and made up an excuse to leave. After she was gone, Erika told Godo that she was only allowing him to keep Yuri by his side because of her special ability. After school, Godo accompanied Yuri to a phone shop so she could buy one, but she felt shy and out of place. When he shivered his phone, she told him she would buy the same model so that he'd teach her how to use it. While Godo went to speak with a staff member, Yuri sensed a presence, but by the time she looked in that direction, the person was gone. After purchasing the phone, they went to a park, and Godo showed Yuri how to set it up. When she finally got hang of it, she called his phone so he could have her number and asked him to give her a call if anything happened before heading home. When Godo got home, there was no one there, so when the phone rang on his way to his room, he picked it up, but immediately ended the call when he realized who was on the other line. However, the person called again, and this time it was his line, so he picked up. It turned out that it was the campione he had fought in Italy, Salvatore Doni, and he had called to tell Godo about another campione who was currently in Japan. He advised Godo to challenge him to a duel so he could get stronger, but Godo hummed up the call before he could say more. However, his first instinct was to call Erika and tell her about it, but he decided to call Yuri instead. Meanwhile, Yuri was taking a bath when his call came in, but when she stood at her phone, Liliane arrived and knocked her out. By the time she woke up, she was in the mysterious room she had seen in her dreams. The mysterious night walker also turned out to be Vauban, the other campione Salvatore was talking about. He told Yuri that he wanted her to summon a heretic god she'd sealed away 4 years ago because he was bored and needed to release some steam. Back at Yuri's shrine, Amaterasu informed Godo and Erika that Vauban had taken Yuri and begged them to help bring her back. Godo agreed to do so, and Erika asked Amaterasu to give them information on Vauban's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Yuri, who was still in Vauban's custody, recalled her conversation with him from earlier on. She had told him she wouldn't summon the god and invite chaos into her country, but Vauban had said she didn't get the right to choose. Yuri had calmly told him that if he wished to continue with his madness, she would take her own life. That way he would have no one to summon the god. Vauban wasn't fazed by her threats. Instead, he called on his dead servants, which were bound to him even in death. He explained that just like them, he would control her soul to do his bidding because he was sure her abilities would still work after she was dead. It was then Yuri used her ability to look into Vauban's soul and discover that the god whose authority he'd taken was Osiris, an Egyptian god who ruled over the land of the dead, which explained why he could control the souls of those he'd slain. Erika and Godo soon arrived at Vauban's hideout, and the moment they stepped inside, they are attacked by Vauban's servants. While they fought them off, another servant went to inform Vauban about the sudden intrusion, and he ordered that they be taken care of. Erika and Godo fought off the first wave of warriors but encountered a witch, who summoned a golem. Godo tried using his ram when the golem proved troublesome, but Erika explained that all they had to do was change the words on its forehead to mean death. When she got an opening, she slashed off the letter E, leaving only the letters meth, which caused the golem to crumble. Meanwhile, Liliane brought Yuri some tea, and when Yuri tried to make small talk with her, she informed her that Godo and Erika had stormed into the place, which surprised Yuri. She said it was because he was the same as Vauban, seeking the thrill of the fight. But Yuri defended him, saying Godo wasn't as violent as the other champions. However, Liliane argued that he had received his powers the same way the others did, and it was normal for them to crave a good fight. She then told her to purify herself as the ritual would begin soon, and she would have to summon the god. Elsewhere in the building, Erika took out the last of Vauban's servants using her steel lion, after which she told Godo to cede his authority for his fight against Vauban. Before they reached Vauban, another mage under his command tried to take them out, but Erika made quick work of him and disposed of him. When they entered Vauban's room, he demanded to know why they had come, and Godo told him that he came for his friend. The Netflix budget Brother Blood said Yuri was a rare and valuable asset of his, so there was no way he would return her. He then asked Godo what he had brought along with him in exchange for Yuri. This was when Erika stepped in and then told Godo to take his close friend, Salvatore's advice. This seemed to pique Vauban's curiosity, so he asked what she meant by Salvatore and Godo being close friends. Erika explained that the two had fought each other in Italy, but after the match had ended in a duel, they became close out of respect for each other's ability. She said that Salvatore had advised Godo to duel with Vauban to show him that he was an ancient relic that belonged in a museum. Godo tried to explain that Salvatore had said no such thing, but Vauban had already taken the bait. He asked Godo if he'd been the one to slay Athena, so Godo said that he'd only whooped her ass and sent her packing. Vauban told him that he had intended to hunt Athena down, but he'd gotten in his way and stole him and his prize. He said Salvatore had done the same thing 4 years ago when he'd summoned a god and told him that their insolence made him mad. However, he snapped his fingers and Lillian and Yuri appeared in the room. Then he told Godo that he was willing to play a game. His game turned out to be hide and seek as he allowed Yuri to go with Godo and Erika, but said he'd only give them 30 minutes to get as far as possible. The only thing they had to do was make sure they could avoid getting caught by him until sunrise. While Ariana drove them away from Vauban's place, Erika pointed out that unless Godo fought Vauban, they would never be safe. Godo told her that he was well aware of the fact, but blamed her for baiting the man. He then asked if she had any information on Vauban's authority, but she told her that before the Night Order was created, Vauban had already slain his god. Just then, Yuri spoke up and begged them to run away while she returned to Vauban, as he only wanted her to perform a summoning. Erika told her that there was no way she'd survive the ritual because the one she had done 4 years ago had taken the lives of more than 30 people. She said that those who managed to survive had ended up as permanent residents in Arkham Asylum, but for some reason Yuri was unheard, which was why there wasn't any guarantee that she would come out of this one on her own. Ariana's alarm went off signaling the end of their 30-minute head start, and almost immediately Vauban's wolves appeared behind them. Erika ordered Ariana to drop them off somewhere empty so they could avoid casualties while they fought. After she dropped them off, they ran towards an open area before turning to face the wolves. However, Erika stopped Godo from using his stallion. Instead, she used a Heavenly Chain Disaster ripoff to unleash her sword on the wolves. Vauban appeared before them almost immediately, and summoned more of his dead servants, who were all great knights during their lifetime. Godo then summoned his stallion, which took out the knights in a ball of fire. But when it got closer to Vauban, the old man pulled the Uno reverse card on them by turning into a wolf and swallowing the fireball whole. At this point, Godo and the girls knew they were royally screwed, but Vauban, out of the goodness of his cold black heart, summoned more knights to fight in his stead. Erika began fighting them, but Godo called out to her and said they would regroup before he picked Yuri up and ran off with the speed of light, using the power of his raptor. After Erika managed to escape from Vauban and his army of walking dead, she encountered Liliana on a rooftop, and the two faced off against one another. Meanwhile, Godo ran as far as he could, and by the time he came to a stop, he was whizzing like a fat pig. Yuri tried healing him with her magic, but he explained that as a Campione, magic did not affect him. He said the only way it would be effective was if it was directly injected into him, making Yuri recall all the times Erika had shamelessly kissed him, as she realized that had been the reason for the kiss. She immediately turned beetroot red and admitted that she had thought Erika was just being a cheapo when she kissed him. Yuri then began rubbing up and down his chest with her hands to help ease the pain. While she did that, Godo told her that if he was to fight Vauban, he needed to get rid of his wolf form. Just as Yuri began apologizing for not having any information on Vauban's authorities, she suddenly got a vision. In the vision, she saw the face of a golden statue, but before she could explain it to Godo, Amaterasu interrupted them and told them that Erika was in danger. Back on the rooftop, Erika and Liliana were going at it and even throwing a few taunts to see who would give up. They eventually left the roof and continued their fight as they flew around the city. However, Erika landed on another building and asked Liliana she was serving Vauban of her own free will, which made her stop midair. Angrily, Liliana told her that her grandfather had forced her into Vauban's service because Erika had seduced Godo into making her his knight. As she moved to attack Erika again, Yuri called out to her from a balcony and begged her to stop. Yuri told her that if she joined forces with them, Godo would gladly accept her as he wasn't the same as Vauban. Just as the boneheaded girl told her that there was no way she'd abandon her master. A powerful gust of wind blew a signboard in Yuri's direction. Luckily, Liliana cut it in half with her sword before it could hit her before flying towards Erika in another attempt to attack her. However, she stopped midway when Erika mentioned the book at the bottom of her bedroom drawer. Liliana asked how she'd known about it, but Erika ignored her and kept repeating the things she'd read in it. She told her that if she promised to let her go, she would keep what she knew a secret, but Liliana told her that she could always exterminate her to keep the secret. Erika simply smiled and said that if she were to die, people would still find out about it because she included it in her will. So Liliana gave up. Godo and Yuri, who had been watching their interaction, didn't understand what they were talking about. But Godo suggested Yuri tell them about her vision so that Liliana would help them with whatever information she had. A few minutes later, they returned to Vauban, and Liliana told him she was done doing his dirty work. Vauban then transformed, after which he tried to kill them with his putrid breath that smelled like poison gas. While Vauban was still testing out his vocals for an upcoming a cappella edition, Erika and Godo kissed so he could have enough magic to summon his sword. After pulling out the sword, the golden area surrounded them and Vauban was left confused as to what sort of power it was. Godo told him that he knew the authority he was currently using belonged to Apollo the sun god. Since Apollo had been sealed on the earth with Artemis, he became incarnate of light as well as the earth. This has given him the power to command wolves, and when Vauban had taken his life, that authority went to him. Vauban charged at Godo after he'd sliced him with the smaller swords, but it was no match for in the end, his authority was stripped from him, and he turned back into a human. He then summoned his knights to see if Godo's sword would have the power to strip him of his remaining powers. When the knights began attacking, Erika and Liliana rushed to Godo's side to help him fight. While they fought, Yuri had a vision of the changing seasons, so she called to Godo and asked him to recreate his sword as Osiris and Apollo were very similar. Godo did as he was asked, but when he started struggling with it, Erika told Yuri that since he did not know Osiris, it would be hard to recreate the sword. Yuri asked how she could help him, but Erika just winked at her, causing her to blush when she realized what she meant. At first, she hesitated when she saw Godo struggling to keep the sword under control. She rushed over to him. After giving him a pointless speech about how she didn't want to keep being an incompetent, constipated loser, she kissed him. Meanwhile, Liliana and Erika were struggling against Vauban's dead servants, and he gladly told them he would add them to his collection after they died like the sick, twisted bastard he was. On the other hand, Yuri and Godo were having trouble connecting, so she suggested making their hearts one before she took charge and deepened the kiss. The next moment, the area was once again covered in gold before he unleashed the smaller swords on Vauban's knights. The girls began celebrating as they believed Vauban had finally been stripped of his authority. But Godo sensed that wasn't the case, and before he could tell them so, he was thrown across the field into a wall. Vauban commended him for taking down his knights as he summoned 3 spirits, which he recognized as the weather deities. Eventually, he absorbed them and used their power to attack Godo with a lightning strike, which he also used to stop the girls from interfering. He shot another lightning bolt at him, which Godo blocked, but fell because of the force. As he lay on the floor feeling hopeless, he heard voices asking him to rise. When he got back up, he drew power from the incarnation of the goat and fired a lightning bolt at Vauban, who managed to deflect it. Erika had no idea where the power had come from, so Yuri explained that it was the incarnation of the goat and said it had the power to invoke thunder and unite people's hearts. Just then, Godo fell to the ground exhausted, while Vauban powered up and prepared to fire another lighting. Before he could do so, the girls surrounded Godo and channeled their power into him, allowing him to hold out against Vauban's attack. However, their combined power was enough to help him until Vauban's dead servants channeling their power into him as they begged him to avenge them. With this energy boost, Godo was able to drop a huge ass-lighting ball on Vauban, but it seemed Vauban was a cockroach, because he was unharmed and tried attacking Godo again. Just then, Erika announced that the sun was rising, so Vauban accepted and left. After he was gone, his dead servants began disappearing too, but they thanked Godo for freeing them. The moment the last servant disappeared, Yuri slumped, but Godo caught her before she hit the floor. When asked what the matter was, Liliana explained that not only did the goat tap from one's will, but it also tapped from their life source. This made him worried, but Yuri assured him that she was fine, and said she was like that because she was naturally weak. Just then, Erika fell to her knees and began coughing, so Godo rushed to see what was happening. However, the moment he stepped in front of her, she pulled him in for a kiss, saying she wasn't going to let only Yuri have all the fun. A few weeks later, Godo and the girls traveled to Italy to spend part of their summer break there. While they were playing beach volleyball, Erika knocked Godo down. Immediately, she rushed at him and began fawning over him as Yuri warned her to keep things peachy. But Erika insisted that the point of the trip was for her and Godo to get closer and eventually get their freak on. Prudish Yuri couldn't believe what she was hearing, But things got even more suspicious when Lucretia said she wanted to get in on the action as she was one of Godo's mistresses. Both she and Erica began pulling Godo's head between their well-rounded plots as Yuri tried to save him from their lewd intentions. Later that evening, while Yuri sat in the hot spring, Lucretia joined her and playfully groped her melons until Ariana arrived with some milk. Meanwhile, Erica had kidnapped Godo and taken him on a lifeboat away from the island. When Godo asked why she'd taken him hostage, she told him she wanted to spend time with him alone as she couldn't do so with the others around. She also said it was his fault she was acting like a clingy, obsessive girlfriend, which she completely agreed with as he recalled the circumstances that led them there. Back in the present, Erica uncuffed him, but he didn't stick around to find out what she wanted to do, because he jumped into the water and swam ashore. Unfortunately, he had swam straight to the hot spring, and the moment Yuri laid eyes on him, she screamed but insisted on speaking with him. While she was giving him a lecture on how he had become a culture degenerate, her towel fell off. Being a hot-blooded male with a working pole, Godo shamelessly stared at her bare plots, which earned him a factory reset slap. Meanwhile, Liliana was somewhere in the city when she received word that her fellow knights had lost sight of Salvatore. This made her worried as they needed his help to take care of a growing problem. Even though he was a major headache, at the beach house, Godo snuck away while the girls and Lucretia were fast asleep. However, before he could get far, he sensed a presence, and when he looked in that direction, he saw Athena. He asked why she had come, and she reminded him that he was the one who had come into her territory. Godo told her that it wasn't enough reason for her to come to him, but she told him she had no intention of fighting, which he found confusing, so she explained that a battle was approaching, and she wanted to play along since he was around. Godo still didn't understand what she meant by that until she got him on a boat and headed towards a glowing light. A few minutes before that, Salvatore came upon an underground tunnel with the witch's seal protecting the place, but since magic had no effect on him, he walked right in. In the center of the room stood a glowing pillar from which he could feel the power of a god running through it. When he reached out to touch it, Liliana arrived and told him not to, so he asked if she wasn't curious about the seal of Hera. It was called the Heronian, but Liliana ignored his question and said that since the Gorgonian was found, the magnetic force around the pillar had increased. Salvatore admitted that if he had known Athena would show up, he would have taken matters into his own hands. As he spoke, he took out his sword and pointed it at the pillar, which made her beg him not to do anything stupid. Salvatore told her that merely standing by the pillar and doing nothing while he waited for something to happen was boring. Liliana tried to change his mind by saying his magic sword wasn't strong enough to cut through a goddess's seal, but he assured her there was nothing his blade couldn't cut before he created hard crystals around the hilt of the sword in his hand. The moment he cut the pillar in half, a powerful green light burst through the roof and eventually turned into a dragon. From the boat, Godo asked Athena what kind of god the dragon was, and she told him it was a divine beast. However, she said that its appearance had caught the attention of a troublesome god. Back in the place where the dragon had been released, Liliana watched as something struck it with lightning and knocked it out of the sky. Before she could reach it, a god appeared in front of it and introduced himself as Perseus, the legendary dragon killer. When he pulled out his sword, Liliana begged him not to slay the dragon, since it had been born from the island's energy and could cause problems if it died. Perseus refused, saying it was his duty, so she asked if he didn't care what would happen to the island if he were to slay the dragon. Perseus told her it was but a small price to pay for his good works to be completed as he raised his sword. It was almost as if the dragon understood what he said because it attempted to fry Perseus to a crisp using its fire breath. Perseus was quick to move out of the way and managed to slash it a few times, but before he could deliver the final blow, Athena stopped him. Godo arrived just then, and Liliana accused him of bringing Athena to the island, but he assured her that she'd been the one to bring him. Athena absorbed the dragon, so Perseus turned his attention to her. But before they could begin fighting, Godo ran to them and begged them not to fight. One look and Godo and Perseus could tell he wasn't a normal human, and Athena confirmed it by saying he was a god slayer. Perseus told Godo that he considered him an enemy because he was a royal enemy who had fought other heroes of steel. Athena then said she would step aside and let the two of them duke it out, so Perseus turned his sword on Godo. Before he could attack, Liliana activated her flight abilities and carried Godo out of there as fast as she could. He tried to get her to return because he didn't want a fight between the two gods to break out, but Liliana told him that Perseus was more interested in fighting him, so they needed to buy some time. In the end, they went to a place with broken buildings, and Godo asked Liliana what had happened, so she explained that Salvatore had broken the Hieronian seal and let the dragon loose. She told him they needed to come up with a plan to get rid of Perseus. He said he needed information on him to be able to use his sword. Liliana offered to use her teaching magic to pump him full of information, but he explained that magic didn't work on him from the outside. When she asked what he meant by that, a flash of his kiss with Yuri came to his mind. Liliana kept insisting he tell her what to do, and he told her he couldn't because he didn't want her acting like Erika. After she heard this, she demanded he tell her, as she refused to accept there was something Erika could do better than her. Terrified by her behavior, he blurted out that he couldn't ask her to kiss him, which made her face turn the same shade as a ripped tomato. Liliana slumped down in defeat. The next moment, they heard the sound of Perseus laughing as he approached them on his Pegasus. When he hopped off the horse, he pulled out his sword and challenged Godo, but Liliana got between them. She insisted that she would fight on Godo's behalf since she couldn't do what was required to summon his sword. Perseus commended her bravery after she charged at him, and he stopped her sword with his. Knowing fully well that Perseus could send her to the afterlife in the blink of an eye, Godo summoned the incarnation of his boar. The mighty boar came up from under the ground and lifted the three of them in the air. As it jumped, Godo tackled Perseus and threw off the back of the boar before it landed on the ground. It then tried to go on a rampage, but Godo ordered it to stand still until Perseus came back on his horse and ordered it to return. When it began crumbling to pieces, Liliana grabbed Godo and flew to safety to avoid them falling to their deaths. Godo couldn't understand how he was able to seal his authority, but didn't have time to dwell on it as Perseus began shooting arrows at them. He tried escaping with the power of the raptor, but Perseus managed to seal its power too. Before Godo could react, Perseus shot an arrow straight into his chest, and he fell to the ground dead. Liliana was in a state of shock as she knelt beside Godo's lifeless body, but when she noticed Perseus about to take a Nagar shot, she got up and challenged him. The next moment, however, Athena appeared behind Perseus and struck his back with her scythe before telling him to let Godo be. She said he was her prey, and she had no intention of giving him up to Perseus, because he was to die by her hands. This made Perseus ask if Godo would revive, and she told him that he would. Perseus then decided to retreat until his wounds healed and Godo awoke, so they could finally finish the fight. After he was gone, Athena instructed Liliana to let Godo know once he woke up, that she would be the one to take him down. Meanwhile, Godo was in the void trying to figure out why he was there when Pandora came to him, so he asked her about it. Pandora explained that for the power of the ram to fully activate, he had to die completely. She then told him that once he returned to the land of the living, things would be difficult. But when she tried explaining how he defeat Perseus, he woke up. Liliana was relieved to see him awake, but still scolded him for allowing himself to die. She soon realized she was speaking to him rudely, so she jumped back, took a knee, and apologized for her rudeness. Godo assured her that she'd done nothing wrong, as it was his fault that he'd been pierced through with the arrow. Still, she insisted that if she'd agreed to kiss him, he would not have been hurt, and even offered to commit seppuku to pay for her sins. Just as Godo tried to convince her that it would be unwise, the door opened and a girl in a maid's uniform came in. The girl, who introduced herself as Karen, informed Godo that Liliana had watched over him the entire night, so he thanked her. Liliana said she was only doing her duties as a knight, but Karen smiled knowingly and told her that she'd heard from Ariana that Godo was on a trip. She said that he'd come on the trip with Erika and Yuri, but eventually met up with his mistress, Lucretia Zola. Liliana was horrified, but Karen carried on and said that aside from spending time on the beach, Liliana couldn't believe her ears, and even though Godo tried to tell her that Karen was capping and spewing rubbish out of her foul mouth, Liliana lost it. She began talking about how Godo should be known as the Lord of the Rakes, and said that his ultimate plan was to create a harem of beautiful ladies from around the world. To make things worse, Karen told her that Godo expected her to service pulled too. Almost immediately, the bird-brained girl began stripping, but while Karen took pictures of her, Godo tried to convince her to put her clothes back on when she dropped her skirt and exposed herself to him. Meanwhile, on the island where Erika and the others were, all the electronics, cars and boats had stopped working. Erika told Yuri that after she received a call about what happened to Godo, her phone stopped working. Yuri asked if Godo would be alright, and Erica said it would be best they channeled all their energy into finding a way off the island because Godo would surely be alright. Back in Naples, Godo tried calling Erica, but he couldn't get her, so Karen asked Liliana what they were to do. But since she was still feeling the after effects of her embarrassment, she ignored them. When Godo tried telling her that everything was fine, she suddenly got up and punched the wall. She then said they needed to focus on stopping Perseus, which reminded Godo of how he'd sealed his authority. She pointed out that his name could mean he was from an eastern country, but she wasn't sure which one. Godo thought about it and said he wished Erica and the others were around. The only thing Liliana heard was Erica. Karen noticed she was about to pop off, so she asked Godo to go to the balcony for some air. After he left, she told Liliana that this was her chance to make Godo her man, since she wouldn't be interrupted by Erica. She said their organization and Erica's organization had never seen eye to eye, and when Erica became Godo's knight, the power scale tilted in favor of her organization. She told her that fate had finally brought them together because it was no coincidence that she fought side by side with Godo. Liliana slowly began thinking that Karen was right, but she shook off the delusional daydream and excused herself. Outside, Godo was on the balcony when he noticed a book lying on the floor, so he picked it up. When he opened it, he saw that it was in Italian, but ever since he became a campione, he had been able to understand different languages, so he had no trouble reading it. However, as soon as he began to read it, suddenly he felt a blade on his back as Liliana threatened to commit murder-suicide since he found out her secret. Godo began begging for his life and held the sword to his throat as she spoke to him like a complete psycho. Luckily, Athena arrived just then, stopping Liliana from doing away with him permanently. Eventually they went with Athena to the beach and Godo asked why Perseus had been able to cancel his authority. Athena told him that if he wished to find out, he would have to do a favor for her, to which he immediately agreed. Thankfully, Liliana stood in front of him and declined her offer as she seemed to be the only one with a functioning brain. Athena didn't look fazed but told Godo before she disappeared that if he changed his mind, he should just come find her. On her way back to the Bronze Black Cross headquarters, Godo asked Liliana why she'd stopped him from taking the deal. She told him that making a deal like that was dangerous, even though he was a campione. Liliana was so pissed at his stupidity that she began scolding him until she realized what she was doing and began apologizing. Godo told her she'd been right and begged her to stand up, but she refused and kept bowing her head. When he noticed her behavior was drawing attention to them, he pulled her up and went to get her some ice cream. While they licked their ice cream, Liliana asked why he cared about her, and he told her it was because she was his friend. He said that without her help or the help of the others, he wouldn't be where he was, so he had to look out for them. Liliana felt embarrassed, so she tried covering it up by saying he needed to be careful too, and reminded him that they needed to get rid of Perseus. When she turned to leave, Godo called out to her and said her writing hobby was a bad thing, but instead of thanking him, she threw her ice cream at him. Later on, while she and Godo tried to find out more about Perseus from some books, Liliana's mind began to wander. Before she knew it, she was daydreaming about her and Godo together, but the moment she imagined them doing smut-related things, she stepped out of the room to calm her raging hormones. When she returned, she offered Godo some tea, but after he drank some, he cried out in pain and dropped the cup. Liliana then apologized for drugging him, but said that it was the only way she could think of as she planned on taking Athena's deal. When she got to the beach, Athena was already there, so she asked her to tell her what Perseus was using to cancel Godo's authority. Athena began speaking in parables, which Liliana couldn't understand, but suddenly received a vision. When Athena realized what had happened, she appeared before Liliana told her she wasn't going to let her return to Godo. Liliana stood in shock as Athena began undressing, and if not for the timely arrival of Godo, only the Lord knows what she would have done to her. Even though he was weak, he told Athena he would take her on if she laid a finger on Liliana, so she backed off and he asked her to tell him what she knew. Athena explained that the one who connected Perseus to the east and the sun god was their ancestor who founded an empire. After hearing those words, Liliana said she knew what they needed, but Godo couldn't celebrate because he almost fainted. Athena managed to catch him on time and told him that when next they saw each other, it would be after he defeated Perseus. She then threw him at Liliana, who held on to him until her clothes started slipping. Meanwhile, Erica, Lucretia, and Ariana had been tied up by Salvatore. Before he tied Yuri up too, he admitted he was the one who cut off all the power and gadgets on the island because he didn't want them interfering with Godo's fight. Back in Naples, Liliana and Godo were talking when an arrow struck the wall beside Godo's head before turning into a silver coin. When Godo touched it, a message from Perseus played, asking him to meet up with him to finish their fight. A few hours later, Perseus was speaking to a crowd who kept praising him as the god hero before he turned to face Godo. Godo told him to stop acting like he was on WWE Monday Night Raw, and Perseus asked if he was scared to get his butt whooped in front of people. Godo said he wasn't, so Perseus declared that they would let their weapons do all the talking, and Godo agreed as he chose an incarnation to use. Hours before that, Godo and Liliana had taken Perseus' message coin to the headquarters and let the message play in the presence of Karen. After listening, Karen asked Liliana to transfer the knowledge she gained from her vision to Godo. Liliana refused, saying it was better she explain it. Karen then pulled up all the books she would need to explain things, which made her change her mind. So Karen suggested she transfer it to her, so she could transfer it to Godo. Still, Liliana refused, so Karen then started teasing about how Erica would react if she found out, and Liliana didn't like it. Godo just smiled and excused himself, saying he was going to the bathroom. After he left, Karen tried to convince Liliana that everything that was happening was by fate's design, but Liliana wasn't as delusional as her and refused to accept it. It was also at that moment they noticed that Godo was taking a long time in the bathroom. Elsewhere in the city, the bus stopped and Godo came down. Liliana spoke up from the light pole. They found a place to sit down, and he told her that he didn't want to force her to do something she didn't like. Liliana insisted that as a king, he could order her to do whatever he wanted, but he told her that he wasn't going to be like Vauban, who had forced her to do things she didn't like. He then got up to lead but stopped in his tracks when an arrow came flying towards them. When they looked in the direction it came from, they saw Perseus, who said he had come so they may continue the fight. Back at the arena, Godo and Perseus were engaged in a heated battle, but Perseus used his powers to seal Godo's powers. He then shot an arrow which sent Godo flying into a nearby building. Liliana immediately rushed at him and felt relief when she saw he wasn't hurt badly, but asked what he planned to do. He said he would figure it out as he went, and said he was the only one who could stand against Perseus. Annoyed, she pulled him in for a kiss, and after they pulled apart, she asked him to stop behaving like a stubborn donkey. She begged him to let her help him, as it was the only way to defeat Perseus. When he agreed, she told him to kiss her, because she felt it was wrong for her to initiate the kiss, so he did as she asked. Outside, Perseus was about to shoot another arrow to draw Godo out. Suddenly, Godo appeared before him carrying Liliana, and he told him that he knew he wasn't Perseus but Mithras. He said the reason he was able to seal his authority was because Verithragna had once served him. Perseus was impressed that he had been able to learn his origin, but that didn't stop him from attacking. Godo blocked all the attacks until his sword became very large, and he used it to block the next arrow Perseus sent his way. Godo managed to send it back to a very surprised Perseus before they were transported back to the real world. Perseus praised Godo for destroying his bow. However, Perseus kicked him to the floor and stabbed his shoulder with his sword. But to his surprise, Godo grabbed the blade with his free hand, using its strength to kick Perseus and send him flying into some buildings. Liliana rushed to Godo's side, and he explained that he allowed Perseus to hurt him, so he could activate the camel incarnation. Just then, Perseus returned, and when he noticed Liliana, he looked her directly in the eyes and hypnotized her with his, after which he ordered her to slay Godo. Since she was now a mindless zombie, Liliana began attacking Godo, and no matter how many times he tried to talk some sense into her, she kept slashing him. After he managed to get away from her, she switched her sword for a bow and some arrows. Godo refused to move from his spot and screamed out her name. So the moment she let the arrows fly, they went past him and hit Perseus. Godo immediately ran to check on her, and she told him that she'd heard his voice, which was why she gained control of her body. Perseus took out the arrow that had struck him and said he'd underestimated the power of love. Nevertheless, he wasn't prepared to accept defeat, so he charged at Godo, and as the two fought, Liliana prepared to shoot her arrows. As soon as she found an opening, she let them fly, but Perseus dodged all of them. However, he didn't expect the last one to act as a boomerang, so he wasn't prepared when it returned and struck his shoulder, after which he summoned the boar and threw it as Perseus, with all the strength he had before he collapsed from exhaustion and his injuries. Liliana tried to heal him by kissing him. but Athena suddenly appeared and said she would heal him as a way to apologize for dragging him in her mess. Liliana tried to stop her, but after healing him, she kissed him again, saying it was a gift. Before leaving, she asked Liliana to let Godo know that they would meet again, much to her disappointment. Elsewhere in Ally, Perseus was attacked and swallowed whole by Athena. The next morning, while Liliana was peeling apples for Godo, Erika and Yuri arrived, and the first thing the violent girl did was try to attack Godo. Liliana stopped the blade before it reached him with her small knife and asked why she wanted to hurt her master. Yuri then came to stand beside Erika and congratulated Godo for defeating Perseus. And when he asked how she knew, Yuri told him that Karen had told her. As at Sheep and Summon, the tricky maid and Ariana popped in to say hello, and after they left, Erika asked if Liliana and Godo had kissed. Godo told her that was the only way for him to get the knowledge he needed, and she told him he was nothing but a 3-timing skirt-chasing manhole. Almost immediately, she pulled out a sword and decided to teach him a lesson he wouldn't forget for cheating. Sometime later, a black-haired girl went to visit Yuri, and she told her that it was unacceptable that she was losing Godo to Erika. She said she'd been ordered to become Godo's concubine just like Yuri, but since it looked like Yuri had feelings for Godo, they would split the responsibility. She told Yuri she could be in charge of making plot with Godo and popping out babies. She would handle everything else after she had come up with a suitable plan to achieve that. Later that day during lunch, Liliana tried feeding him a sandwich. However, Shizuka was having a hard time understanding what these baddies saw in her loser half-wit brother that made them flock to him like sheep. She asked Erika and Yuri if they were comfortable with Godo being a shameless womanizer, and they assured her that it wasn't what she thought. Even though they recalled how Liliana had introduced herself to the class and let them know she had sworn to be with Godo. She had even used her hypnotic powers to make a student switch seats with her, and had made it her duty to pick Godo up every morning like a dutiful chauffeur. Erika then told Shizuka that Liliana was acting like a love-obsessed fool because Godo had been her first, implying that the two of them had done some bedroom aerobics even though it was far from the truth. As Shizuka began scolding her now wayward brother, Yuri told to stop teasing them, but she said she was only speaking the truth. Yuri turned to observe Liliana as she performed her loyal wifer duties, making her feel a bit sad until Erika told her not to worry. She said that Liliana could try as hard as she wanted to, but it won't matter because Godo would only see her as a knight. After classes, Godo found a note on his desk asking him to come to the tea room. Liliana suddenly popped up beside him and insisted on going with him. When they arrived at the tea room, they found the black-haired girl bowing in front of the door, and when she raised her head, she introduced herself as Sishuan Ina, his new servant. She told him that she wanted to say hello to him since she'd been ordered to marry him like Yuri. After they sat down to drink some tea, Godo asked why he had to marry Ina, and she told him that there wasn't anything wrong with it. Ina pointed out that he had 3 mistresses, and she decided not to include Lucretia, so there was no reason for him to be scared of marriage. Godo argued that the girls were just his friends, making Ina ask if he had truly placed Yuri in the friend zone. When he said yes, she asked Yuri if she was okay with that, and Yuri said as long as it was what Godo wanted, she didn't mind. Liliana then asked Ina why she was trying to disrupt Godo's life. When Ina responded to her, she referred to her as number 2. And Liliana asked why, so she said it was because she was the second strongest. Without thinking, Liliana asked if she was implying that the shameless bimbo Erika was better than her. Ina explained that even though they were evenly matched in combat, Liliana tended to only think like a knight. But Ina said that she was only trying to get her facts straight and called Erika's name, which made them realize that she was watching. She then told Erika she wanted to talk to her about a few things, so Erika suggested they go somewhere private to do so. A short while after, Godo, Yuri, and Liliana stood by the school gates waiting for Erika to return, but Godo was starting to get impatient as she hadn't come back yet. Erika showed up, and after Godo confirmed that she hadn't secretly done away with Ina, he invited all 3 of them out to eat. But they all came up with excuses not to go, leaving him alone with Shizuka, who wanted to know about Ina. Elsewhere, Athena was engaged in a heated battle with a shadowy figure, and it didn't look like she was winning. The next day, during swimming lessons, Erika watched as Yuri and Liliana acted like strangers towards each other. Later on during lunch, while Shizuka and Godo were eating on the rooftop, Erika came to invite Godo out on a date, so Shizuka walked away angrily. A few days later, while Erika was preparing for her date, she called Liliana and told her she was going on a date with Godo, which made her start freaking out. After she disconnected the call, she called Yuri and told her that she had something important to say to her. Later on, she went to pick Godo from his house, and as they walked together, she asked what he had planned for their date. When he said nothing, she realized the dumbass hadn't even considered the date, so they went to a lingerie store. While Erika was changing, she asked Godo which piece he liked best, and he started freaking out. Always the tease, Erika told him that he didn't have to pretend like he didn't know what she liked, so he begged her to get dressed, saying he knew where he wanted them to go for their date. For the rest of the day, they went to different restaurants and tried different foods. After a while, they sat on a bench in the park eating some ice cream. Erika noticed the tower that had been destroyed during his fight with Vauban. She said the plaza in Naples was also destroyed and would take a while to repair, but she seemed happy about it because she believed he was leaving his mark around the world. Godo told her destruction wasn't something to be proud of, so she got up and said she knew where she wanted their day to end. Meanwhile, Liliana had gone to the shrine to see Yuri, and she kept pacing around as Yuri did her chores. She then asked Yuri how she could be so calm when Godo was all alone with Erika, who probably had plans to make him hers. Yuri told her that Erika wouldn't do something like that, and Liliana asked if she didn't care about Godo anymore. Yuri explained that even though she fought beside Godo for a long time, he still only saw her as a friend. However, to him a friend was someone he'd risked his life to save. So Liliana asked if that was what Erika had said to her, and she confirmed it. Back in the city, Erika took Godo to the place where he fought Athena, but he couldn't understand why she wanted to come there. She then explained that it held a special place in her heart because it was the place where he had his first victory. She also told him it wasn't nice to label those who fought with him as just friends. When he apologized, she told him she was well aware that his brain functioned the same way Patrick's own did. A few minutes later, Ina arrived and said she had a date planned with Erika, which confused Godo. She explained that they were going to have a one-on-one duel. Erika said he couldn't interfere before she changed outfits. The moment Ina drew her sword, Yuri felt its energy and quickly ran out of the shrine with Liliana on her heels. As both girls fought, Godo asked why they were trying to harm each other, and Erika said she was only defending herself since Anna was hell-bent on eliminating her. Ina backed it up, saying a Japanese king deserved to have a Japanese mistress and not a usurper from Italy. Godo couldn't believe they would fight over something so petty. Bitch, the girls insisted it was important. Ina managed to push Erika back, and when she noticed her sword was chipped, she said Ina's sword was a divine weapon. She then used a spell to summon thunder, which she trapped in her sword before charging at Ina. Before their blades could meet, Godo showed them the importance of plot armor and got between them. Erika scolded him for being reckless, but he said it was the only way to stop them from paying an unscheduled visit to Hades. He then asked them to drop their swords, but Ina refused and her sword began blowing, causing Godo's powers to react to it since she could partially use her body to channel godly powers. When she tried to strike Erika, Godo grabbed onto the hilt of the sword, which caused a portal to open beneath his feet. After Godo passed through the portal, Erika had attacked Anna, demanding to know where he had gone. She told her he was in the netherworld, and after she managed to push Erika back, which gave her the chance to jump into the portal when she realized Godo might still be alive, and it decided to go after her because she wasn't prepared to lose. Meanwhile, Shizuka was home watching TV when Athena fell through the ceiling and asked where Godo was. Godo, on the other hand, was walking through a forest in the netherworld and came across a small wooden house. When he walked in, he saw a man who introduced himself as Susanoo, Ina's grandfather. Susanoo told Godo that he was in the netherworld when he asked where they were. The next moment, Godo began getting visions of Susanoo's past, and when the visions cleared up, he noticed his sword in his hand. Susanoo explained that the netherworld had the power to reveal things of the past and future. He then asked if he wanted to take him on, but later admitted he was joking about it before he said he wanted to transfer some of his power to Ina. When Godo heard her name, he asked Susanoo if she and Erika were fine, and he told him they were still fighting. He then opened a pot of water, which showed the two girls, and Godo demanded him to take him to them. Susanoo refused but advised him to picture them in his mind, and he would be transported there instantly. In the forest, Ina had managed to push Erika back before she called on the god inhabiting her sword and allowed it to take over her body. After her transformation, she absorbed Erika's mana and attempted to strike a final blow on her. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Yuri managed to use her powers to find out where Godo, Erika, and Ina went. She asked Liliana if there was a way to go and retrieve them. Liliana said there was, however, they didn't have the necessary ingredients to complete the ritual to open a portal. Just then, Amaterasu arrived and said he could help them. but Liliana accused him of being behind what happened. Amaterasu assured her that he wanted Godo to return as much as they did because they needed his help. This made Yuri ask what the problem was, and he explained that strange things had been happening around the globe. In the netherworld, Godo arrived just in time to save Erika, and after he told her to leave everything to him, he faced Ina. However, he quickly realized that Ina wasn't in control, and the sword revealed that it had taken over her body. Immediately, Godo said the words to activate his authority, and the area was enveloped in his golden light, using the smaller swords until Ina's body became weak, forcing her to flee. When Godo turned around, he found Erika unconscious, so he rushed over to her and helped her. Sometime later, Erika woke up, but she was still very weak, so Godo decided to take her to Susanoo. However, he couldn't picture him properly in his head and kept getting transported to different places. Meanwhile, in Godo's house, Shizuka and Athena were talking when they heard on TV that parts of the world were being enveloped in darkness. Before Shizuka could comment on it, Athena had disappeared from her spot. Back in the netherworld, Erika knew she was dying, so she begged Godo to look after the others on her behalf. Even though Godo insisted she stop saying such things, she told him that she loved him, and was sad to leave him. He then held her in his arms and kissed her with all he had, hoping he could heal her. When it didn't work, he started cursing the gods for trying to take her from him, only to find himself in a void with Verithragna, who told him to take his power and defy the gods, which happened to be youth. When he returned to Erika, he made her promise to be by his side no matter what before kissing her. As they lay together on the beach, Muraka returned, and this time, he'd take the form of a hybrid group. When Godo tried to fight it, Erika stopped him and said she would take on the task herself. After she struck it with a powerful blow, it fell back, and Ina, who was still attached to it, regained her senses. Godo called out to her and said he'd save her. Erika managed to block it, allowing him to activate the power of the raptor, which he used to get to Ina and pull her out. Because of the way they fell, Ina ended up straddling him, and when he realized she was butt naked, they jumped apart. After she put on some clothes, she thanked him for saving her with a kiss. Erika then asked them to keep it in their pants until she finished Muraka off. The place they were in shattered. They then found themselves at Yuri's shrine and got to witness Athena absorb Muraka. However, a second Athena showed up, and Godo revealed that the person who had absorbed Muraka was Metis, Athena's mother. He told them that Susanoo had told him about her while he was still in the netherworld, and said that she wished to swallow the sky and plunge the world into darkness. Yuri then pointed out that the prophecy that was foretold was about Metis and not Athena, like they had once believed. Metis then pulled out the sword and transformed it into a scythe before she charged at Godo. Fortunately, Athena pushed him out of the way before she could hit him, and Godo asked how she could wield the weapon of a god. Just then, Yuri had a vision, so she explained that it was because the weapon had been bestowed upon its owner by a snake, and Metis was a snake. Erika then ordered Godo to take Athena and leave because if Metis absorbed her, the world would remain in darkness. Godo tried to refuse, so she told him that he had to be their last line of defense. The next moment, Ariana and Amaterasu arrived in a car, and Yuri pushed Godo and Athena inside, but stayed behind. As they drove away, Athena asked Godo who she was and about Medusa's origin. Once Amaterasu heard her questions, he revealed that Athena had lost her memories and her powers. He said that Medusa had materialized from the Gorgonian and had managed to absorb all of Athena's memories and powers. Back in the shrine, Erika went toe-to-toe with Metis, and the girls were surprised to see Erika making use of Godo's powers. However, Erika knew the powers wouldn't last, so she pushed herself to fight until Liliana joined her. Yuri and Ina used their combined powers to hold Metis in place, allowing Erika and Liliana to send a powerful striker away. Meanwhile, from the shrine where Godo and Athena were hiding out, he felt his powers return and prayed that Erika and the others were fine. Athena then asked him who a god was, so he explained that he always thought of them as strong and mighty people. However, now that he had met some of them, he realized they were nothing but children. As soon as he finished speaking, Metis dropped on them like an atomic bomb, destroying the place in the process. When the smoke cleared up, Godo tried to get Metis to return to Athena, but she refused and said it was pointless trying to protect her. Godo said he didn't mind because she was his friend, making Metis laugh as she began attacking him. Godo managed to hold out against her by switching between his authorities. However, Metis still managed to land a hit, and when Athena tried to go to him, she struck her too, but Athena held on to her weapon. She then called out to Godo, who summoned the white stallion to take Metis down with its fire. Unfortunately, it was pointless because Metis was unharmed, and she grabbed Athena before she completely absorbed her. With Athena absorbed, Metis took on her original form and faced Godot. Luckily, the girls arrived just then, and each one of them kissed him to strengthen him as he fought Metis. After he separated Athena from Metis, he asked the girls to lend him their strength, after which he summoned the boar and threw it at Metis. To their surprise, Metis pushed back against it and destroyed it before their very eyes. When her eyes focused, she tried to teach Athena so she could absorb her again. Godot immediately began running towards Athena, screaming for her to wake up, which she eventually did. She then kissed him, and their combined powers created the large golden scythe, which they used to cut her down. As Metis disappeared, she told Athena to remember that she was darkness itself, and at the same time, the darkness around the world lifted. Before Athena disappeared too, she promised Godot that she would see him again, leaving him to wonder if she allowed Metis to absorb her. Soon after, he fainted and the girls rushed at his side to make sure that he was still alive. If you've watched up to this point and you liked the video, let us know by commenting Erica-chan. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. See you guys in the next video.